So we're kind of seasoned and we've been around for a number of years doing what we love doing. But what is it that we wish that we knew? And actually, I think there's probably a shopping list that all of us could put together. What we want to do in this episode is really dive into what are the key things that we can pass on, but also as well that we wish that we knew when we were starting out in marketing and specifically in recruitment marketing. So this is a session all about what we wish we knew. So much. so much. There's endless days where I'm like, oh, if only I knew. But we're going to start with like the bits that stand out for you now, today. What would be the first thing that you tell your younger self day one?
For me, I spent way too long as the marketing girl, if you like. So I think I said yes a lot. I spent a lot of time in tactics. I grew into marketing rather than thinking, yeah, I'm going to be a marketer and I'm stepping in. So while it had its positives because I got to know the business really well, marketing became a force to be reckoned with quickly because we were saying yes. So people wanted to work with us. As a team, I think it didn't necessarily help me because I had this whole array of tactics. I wasn't particularly measuring what worked and what didn't. And I certainly didn't have a strategy or a plan. I was just reacting in the moment. And I became known for that. Just Janine will get that done, that'll be fine. Yeah. And that sort of marketing girl stuck with me for a good while in my first job. And I almost, I admit, I almost took pleasure in it for a while. I think I was popular. I was liked.
Absolutely.
I was doing well, in inverted commas.
You were the go-to. You were the go-to. And at that stage, that felt like
positive. I didn't know any better. And it took me a long time to get to strategy, commercials. What does that mean for the business? Is that the right thing to do? So looking back, that is something I wish I'd known earlier.
I think there's two sides to that as well in terms of where marketing sits strategically. I think there's marketers who naturally, there is a female penchant for marketing as a profession. And I think especially at that age, you want to prove yourself. And especially if you want to be seen as contributing. But that then actually feeds the narrative and that feeds the misconceptions of our profession because it becomes the jack of all trades, the Jill of all trades, the wearer of all hats. And then people assume that is what marketing is. The organizing the Christmas parties, organizing the incentive days or 100%. The drinks trolley, you know, and I'm dating myself a little bit by that, but that's not marketing.
Yeah. Internal comms, all of it becomes part of
that was kind of my sort of like gift, if you like, working in a startup business. It was an incubated publishing business. So I came later to the recruitment party, but I remember thinking, I don't want to do the sales job. I can do a damn sight better if I'm in the marketing job. But there was no marketing job back then. And I think also as well, dating myself even more, I was coming out of university when marketing was very much a B2C kind of career path. And it was advertising and it was glamorous and it was lunches and PR and all that. I don't think I actually ever saw a lunch for the first 10 years of my career, but I think that'd be another thing that I'd say. Make sure you have half an hour for lunch every day, because otherwise you'll burn out by the time you're 23 and a half. But that whole sort of doing everything made sure I was able to understand the dynamics of the business really quickly, really well. And I knew who the players were. Yeah. So internal dynamics, that internal comms you just said, that was literally 50% of my job, was understanding what everybody else wanted in order to be able to go and deliver where they needed to go. And it was almost like I did that bit in secret. I did the marketing piece in secret. And it was almost like, the cobbler's shoes, mend them at night. I would sit there and I'd build databases in the evening so that I could do mail merging and I could do outbound stuff. I mean, again, back in the day before social media was a thing, before we were
data tools.
Direct marketing was our first tactic. And that building the database out was one of the biggest lessons I think I've ever and I take it with me in every, what data do you have about your marketplace? But yeah, I think having the yes mentality is helpful, but not helpful.
Yeah. You can't say no all the time, right? But you need to learn to choose your battles, I think, and if you've got a strategy and a plan and you know what levers work for the business, then that makes that yes and no argument easier.
And then, and I was going to ask, who did you have that knew marketing? I don't have anybody for years and years. In fact,
I grew up as the most
pretty
senior
much
marketer
every
in the
role.
business.
Yeah. Every role.
And I had a different experience. So I was on my own, 2 different companies on my own, pretty much a year in each of those companies. But then I reported into a director of marketing. Yeah. Not sat next to me. I'm Canadian. They were based in Toronto. I was based in Vancouver. And then I moved over to the UK, and I had 2 incredible leaders that were both global leaders that I learned from, both in terms of the marketing, the technical, the strategic, but the soft stuff that you don't otherwise learn even. The talking to the CEO, talking upwards, not getting too caught up in what we knew as good marketing. It suddenly became, what is good for the business? What's good for growth? What's good for business growth versus getting too stuck in the marketing tactics? So yeah, I'm fully aware of how fortunate I was. Something I try to pass on to people today, because there's a lot of solo marketers out there. And how do you learn? How do you learn if you don't have that mentorship and guidance?
I think it also helps as well, having someone to help you navigate the C-suite, kind of the rules and the language. And I mean, again, I can count on more than my hands the times that I've misread an expectation from a leader, a CEO, the MD, we need to be doing this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm translating that into tactics, I'm translating that into activities, all without any regard for how long this is going to take, how much resource extra to me is this going to need, and where's the money coming from?
Yeah, but also where's the time coming from?
Yeah, the time.
And how do you actually prove if it's a good idea or not?
That's the one, because I think in recruitment, especially, the leaders that you're talking about are sales leaders. So they come at the we should be doing from a sales perspective, and without regard necessarily, especially for me when I was younger, for your marketing expertise. And I learned marketing along the way. I did the theory alongside my first and second jobs and did a sort of master's in distance learning, but way back when, and that didn't include social media. That didn't include, any of the sort of elements that it didn't include any level of content marketing, I suppose, digital marketing in a proper way. It didn't have the level
of data.
It didn't have anything like the level of data, but what it did talk about was P&Ls. It did talk about the finance side. It did talk about budgeting. So I think when you start to talk in that language, you start to position yourself really differently. And it's knowing from the sales angle, okay, let's not just do all of that. Let's think about what we're trying to get to and how we do that. It can usually be a different conversation.
Yeah. I think the other part of that is that's when you, and I will bring back the data into it, even though that is something for today, less than it was however many years ago. But once you can actually prove, there's proving all the way through to P&L, but once you can act and using that to steer, where are you putting your budget? Where are you putting your time? What do we need more of? Where are the gaps strategically that marketing needs to plug or uplift? But then you get to the place of what is actually working, because you can think, oh, well, we think that's amazing. Oh yeah, that's the driver of everything. But when you actually get into it, and more often than not, this is the case, you get into it and you're like, actually that channel hasn't driven anything, or we think that channel has been amazing, but it's done this, whereas actually we do so much better going down this other channel, this other campaign, or other even vertical, whatever that might be.
To add to that, I learned about attribution really early on, in that it wasn't ever single tactics.
Yeah.
And again, it was almost like the moment in time. So I don't know about you guys, but specifically in that sort of recruitment campaign time, we were like, one of the better experiences was tallied to the release of the new accountants coming out, for example, in finance recruitment. Yeah. So you'd go and you work with the bodies
The
and
SEMAs and the
SEMAs, the
ACCAs, yeah.
ICAWs, etc. And you'd go and you'd have an experience with them, with consultants that come along, and the new grads would be chatting away, going, right, this is my career aspirations. And as a marketeer, being in that room, in amongst your target audience, totally the most invaluable thing. What it enabled me to do was to pick up, this is the right content, these are the right words, this is the right messaging. But not only that, then where do you publish that kind of thought leadership article? Where do you take, and again, we just started, I suppose, around social media and that whole sort of positioning of consultants to gain credibility, and that credibility becoming another tactic and using that to leverage. So I think all of that was great. And that was when I was able to start pushing back on the C-suite kind of expectations of marketing's here to do the PowerPoint decks, or we've got another pitch, or we've talked about the dreaded RFPs. Yeah. How many days sitting answering the same questions, going, we've got a library for this, but it's a different RFP. It's, it's
and also, do you need a marketer to be doing that? I talk about opportunity cost a lot. The opportunity cost for your marketer to be sitting there pulling things from different libraries that should exist. And oh, by the way, there is AI nowadays that can support this significantly.
That didn't do that then,
automation. They didn't have that many years ago. But the opportunity cost, and you see it even with the sales decks and the stuff that marketers get pulled into. Now, you could say a sales deck is maybe closest to the bottom of the funnel and is actually, that can convert a customer. But there's smarter ways to fulfill that, because the opportunity cost of your marketer not doing the strategic stuff that's going to be pulling more people in and getting your brand out to more people and pulling them and nurturing them through the funnel, that opportunity cost is massive. And that's where people forget, because they're so focused on the here and now 30-day kind of what's our revenue for these 30 days. And we need something that's going to close that deal. But wouldn't you be better off if you had more deals that are coming through the pipeline?
Yeah. I think that dynamics of being able to articulate then to your CEO, your MD, this is marketing, and to be able to have a very clear definition of what your role is at each stage of the funnel, because they're different. You're constantly doing lots of it all at the very same time. Yeah. I often think of myself as an octopus, especially back then. And we talked about things like, wouldn't it be great if we were a full stack marketing team? And actually we all were in an individual like that. Full,
you just did a bit of everything.
Talk about being traditional or digital, and even back then there was these definitions that were sprouting off. But even if I think back, digital marketing, even 15, 20 years ago, was still a massive career, like totally different dimension to where we were operating. But the fact that we were all doing all of it at the same time. So I think being able to articulate, this is my job, this is what I can do. This is why I can do what I can do, and this is a result. I think
so. You're talking about setting expectations. You're setting CEO expectations, leadership expectations of what marketing can deliver. But there's a which came first, chicken or egg scenario here, because and this is something I think younger marketers really struggle with, is that they know there's something more. They may not even be quite ready for it because they don't have the mentor, etc. But they know there's more, and they know they need to get exposure. But that expectation is, oh well, you're the marketer, and you're doing presentations or something.
You're doing content. Yeah.
How does that marketer then reset and get on that CEO's agenda to get them into the room, into the board?
How much time did you have with your senior leader?
That's a good question. I reported into the commercial director in my first proper marketing job. And I spent plenty of time with him. I still think I was fairly heavily tactical. I was supporting, I worked with one of the big agencies, and I was supporting 100 plus branches, and that's how it felt. Can we do, there was a plan that worked across a sort of 12-week structure, but there was still going to this event, we're going to this job fair, we're going to this, from 108 branches.
That's a lot. That is a hell of a lot.
So I did spend time with him, but I think spending time with the bigger board and the bigger senior leadership team was what really started to work for me. And we used to go off site quarterly, and that I still remember those as real positive meetings where marketing was included, where marketing was at the table, and where we genuinely got to have proper conversations about what were we trying to achieve and how could that be supported by marketing. And I remember the first time I stood up for myself a little bit in one of those. We were discussing brand and where does this big brand go and who does it apply to. Much discussion around, this was the board level team, so a fairly limited number, but all male, all 50 plus, I'm going to say. And I remember sort of standing there listening to this discussion and then going, look, guys, none of you are the target market here. We were very candidate focused then, much more so than we were clients.
It was kind of a junior to mid-level candidate too. We're not talking about executive
senior
search.
finance here. No, not at all. So, that I remember
you
them
were
all,
their target audience.
I was the target audience.
And
I remember them
setting
sitting
the
back and
agenda.
going, yeah, okay.
That's
you're
amazing.
Right. And I
Like, in
remember
itself,
that. I
that's
still remember
amazing.
that 20
the
years
amount
on.
of
I
times-
remember that moment of, I just made a point.
You can see the significance of
Yeah, and I moved
as
forward
well,
from there.
20
I definitely
years on.
did. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's really, I mean, again, I don't think I certainly didn't believe in myself enough to have
Yeah.
that level of voice. There was moments, obviously, where I had to, and I did, but at the same time, I would never have kind of positioned myself to be the person that says, hold on a minute, if we considered one, our target audience, and two, what we're actually doing here or what we're trying to achieve. But it's those questions as well. I think having the courage to say, actually, fundamentals of marketing are who's your target audience? What's your brand value promise? What are we trying to achieve? Where's the value exchange that we're passing on here?
I was in my 30s before I talked about value proposition. I
Yeah.
genuinely was.
I think that's the game changer. And the markets, obviously the dynamics of the markets have changed massively over the years that we've been in recruitment marketing, but also working alongside. But the power dynamics of senior consultants, other directors in the business, marketing being kind of seen. We've all seen it. We've all heard it. We've all probably got a T-shirt that says, I'm the colouring in department. Where's my crayons? Those kind of things. I mean, I used to keep a pack of pencils in my drawer just for those exact moments and just hold them out.
I had a magic wand.
Equally as useful. But how best can the next generation of marketeers who are entering the profession help themselves to navigate the egos that I've been here before, I want this, I need it now, you need to do this because you're that?
I think actually we could say, how do you advise the marketers? I'd also say, how do we advise all contributors in the business and create a corporate culture? I think that's actually the bigger piece, because I think there's a lot of businesses who are not doing this anymore. There are still a lot of businesses that do this, what I'm about to say, but putting that top biller on the pedestal, and then everybody has to, well, they did it this way. And normally that top biller is the last one who A, needs marketing, but B, believes in marketing. But that top biller, one, is a unicorn, and two, has probably been at the game for a while and has their book of business, and they're able to just keep running the book of business. Same thing with that recruitment leader who has either gone and started the business or has advanced through the business. So often than not, they did it off their own backs. So we're in a really interesting industry that doesn't really follow a lot of other industries. That's easy to say. Maybe other industries would say differently.
Very different.
But most businesses, when they're in a moment of growth and they're wanting to grow, they're not going to be getting lots of experienced consultants coming in. They're getting junior consultants coming in. And how are you going to make that junior consultant successful? You're going to make them successful by giving them a centralized marketing function or centralized place to get inbound leads, whether that's reputation, whether that's leads, brand building, reputation, I mean. But that comes from not always just rewarding and everybody having to emulate that top biller. And I think that's a really hard dynamic when you say, what should marketers do? I appeal to the recruitment leaders of saying, if you really want to scale your business, you're not just doing that by attracting all these amazing top billers. Because one, they're going to leave.
Yeah. Set up their
You got
own.
to scale. How are you going to scale?
Yeah.
And marketing is one of the key elements that contribute to it.
You've just totally hit the nail on the head for me. It's what is this marketing function here for?
True.
And again, I've walked into so many places, and we've been the admin team, the party events team, anybody and everything except
The
for
advertising
strategic
team.
marketing.
Yeah.
And then once you do get into that realms of, we're demand generation, we're a growth driver, we're a brand building, reputation enhancing function, then I think the dynamics internally change, and that culture adapts beautifully to a heartbeat that is really marketing for me. At that point, is the heartbeat of the business, because everybody believes in it, and everybody kind of centralizes.
You know what I love as part of that, culture piece. I remember a senior director who had been brought in as a senior director at my old employer. He said to me that at the time I was responsible for press room and all the PR, and we got a lot of media coverage. And he said, "Oh, I've joined because of all the positive media coverage." And my jaw dropped. I was like, look at me, I've made this positive impact. But it's interesting when you think of that. And if you translate that to today, how are recruitment agencies, for one, but other businesses as well, how are they attracting? You've talked about employer branding. How are they attractive? Their next level of consultant. And oftentimes it defaults to commission package and incentive trips. Look at us, aren't we amazing? And don't we have this great culture? But how do you...
How can that go so wrong as well, though?
Yeah.
30,000
guys
UK
on the
alone,
plane.
30,000 recruitment agencies. How do you actually differentiate on that? And I think such a powerful differentiator, especially when you get younger people who actually aren't in it for the Ibiza trips. They actually have much different drivers than maybe, that older generation. But the marketing of one, articulating it, but also even creating the machine of, we set you up for success. This is the inbound calls you're going to get. This is what you get as maybe younger in your career, Mr. or Mrs. Consultant, or Mr. or Miss Consultant, probably at that age. But we will set you up for success that goes beyond the parties, the culture, etc. It's actually, you are going to get a dynamic career. And that starts because we have a viable,
tools,
scalable
support.
company that's going to give you the tools to be successful.
Yeah. I do think that dynamic of where recruitment agencies versus businesses, the dynamics I've straddled kind of all aspects of the recruitment world over the years. The difference that being in-house recruitment leader, marketing leader in a recruitment agency is so vastly different to being in a normal commercial business, because there isn't anything that's normal about the way that marketing has to operate. I think it is the hardest marketing job in so many different ways and so many different careers. But there's definite myths that have been circulating in that agency environment. So what are the myths that we all fell for?
I think we've covered one already, that you need to be all things. I still class myself as a, inverted commas, full stack marketer. I've done everything from radio advertising, TV, to obviously the digital side and all of those things. And I still very much class myself as an all-rounder. I avoid the jack of all trades, although I think that's got a better ending, hasn't it, as a phrase? But yeah, I think that's a myth now. I think you don't need full stack marketers. You need strategy and you need experts. So I think that's a myth these days that, I don't think it was then as much as it is today.
Is it something still that you think, actually, for recruitment agencies hiring for their first marketeer, do they go for the junior, kind of straight from university, school, college, wherever, and this is our expectation? I mean, I still think, and I still see those ridiculous specs.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you've got to be able to do everything and walk on glass and eat fire at the same time.
Yeah. They're too common,
the
aren't
same
they?
businesses that also then don't believe in marketing 6 months down the road because they're saying, well, it didn't deliver anything.
Yeah.
Oh, marketing didn't deliver anything. Well, that's because you didn't have somebody who had a mentor or a plan or a strategy to execute against. So they naturally fell into the Jack or Jill of all trades, party planner, spreadsheet,
Admin.
RFP admin kind of role because they were trying to find enough content for that
Yeah.
person, not knowing how to even guide them on what marketing was. They hadn't probably even defined what marketing was in their
Or you've got a social media channel and you've got a website we need updating.
Oh, so many of them look like just content people, don't they? The marketers they hire, I think because of that lack of understanding at the top level, tend to be, we just want to make more noise. That effectively is what those massive job specs spill down to, is we need to be louder, we need to be noisier, we need to be...
But
and
noise,
also,
it's white noise,
I
isn't
need
it?
to look like them over there.
Yeah.
That's a mate that's set up at the same time that, God, they're much noisier than we are. That's usually where this stuff comes from.
So, yeah.
Ridiculously.
But also, marketing has now become very, very technical.
Yeah.
You know, I was actually,
100%.
we're working with a business right now that the CEO, he's been the CEO for many years, and he's an incredibly talented, astute man. And he said, oh my goodness, he says, I feel I've just learned marketing. After all these years, I've just finally realized
the
what marketing
light bulb has
delivers.
just gone on.
And he's amazing. I mean, he's such a visionary, and he absolutely gets it. But it's because they've never necessarily had the exposure either to it.
Yeah.
A lot of education.
They don't need to be full stack either, right?
But I think
Oh,
that having
bring in
that
an expert.
empathy, or not empathy, having that awareness, self-awareness, and business awareness to say, you know what, actually marketing is pretty technical, and I may not know everything as the leader, and that's okay.
So I started learning to define my areas of expertise quite early on, because there are certain things in our marketing kind of, I don't know, Mary Poppins goodie bag that I was like, right, if I had to do just 3 things, I would do brand, experience, and comms, content, basically. So they're my kind of 3.
Yeah.
What are yours? And would you define 3, or would you just go 1?
Mine's certainly my number one is strategy. Tying that to commercial. That's where I that's what I enjoy. That's what I'm good at. And then the planning out of that and the tactical doing. Do you know, I still love getting my hands dirty. I can still be found rewriting a job advert on occasion. Yeah. But that's the stuff that I think I don't do as much have anymore. The actual copy, the actual content. It's much more for me about the strategy and the planning and the how are we going to measure this, getting that right up front. So setting up a plan with a success looks like this.
Yeah.
And this is how we're going to measure that. And
The
knowing
full frameworks
that it's
kind
all
of,
there.
Yeah.
You can't know it's all going to work. Marketing's still not a perfect science, sadly, but you've got the buy-in, you've got the plan, and that makes it easier for a more junior marketer to then go and deliver across that and track as you go, test, trial, tweak, and go again. And I've always been that sort of marketer, fast, like fail fast and try another thing.
Have you got aspects of the
afraid of
actual
that.
job? When you said you love getting, I'm constantly in the weeds. I love it.
Yeah.
But I
love
like
it.
that 30,000 foot for the strategy piece, the overarching planning. But I would literally, if someone said to me tomorrow, this is a brand project, I'd be like all over it.
I love that.
Absolutely.
The workshops, getting to finding those light bulb moments that you just referred to. That's the best bit of the job, right?
I think so many businesses, I think why brand comes first is because brand needs to underpin everything. You can't have, all these fancy campaigns if what you're saying isn't compelling to
The audience.
customer.
to build trust,
Yeah.
etc. And I think with a lot of these businesses that are newer businesses or that are scaling or haven't even sorted the basics, brand then becomes the default. That's why it's part of the default. And as we've even been speaking, I've been thinking like, gosh, my big company experience, the brand was there. It was done. You're always contributing to it, but it was done. And I think that's probably why my big light bulb moment or big kind of career changer came when I was brand comms. I knew that brand inside and out. I can write it. I was fast at writing. There was no AI at the time. I was, I knew that stuff. And I had a peer who we actually peers. We were both directors, who was the digital, and we did not get on. Different countries, different nationalities, culture, the whole thing. And she was threatened because I had the company buy-in, because I knew all this, I had the longevity. And I was certainly threatened because she would come at me with these like data, and you justify this and you justify that. And it was scary. I mean, this was my imposter syndrome moment that I was like, I don't know any of this. but I had to learn it to not get eaten alive by it. And I class myself as, I mean, my whole stick is ROI. And that
Data.
there is an assumption that brand is already there, because you can't do these things if brand is not already established. But it was soon as I actually learned how are these contributing to something bigger, and how do I measure these campaigns? How do I speak to the leadership to demonstrate how these campaigns are moving the dial for them? That I really felt I got my superpower in all of it.
Yeah.
To be able to combine those two things is really where the magic happens for marketing.
I think you've just outlined as well. For me, it was that moment of inheriting a really, really gorgeous brand and then being able to not even make a mark on it from a personal perspective, but to know that there was that caretaking moment and there was that sort of refinement and journey. The brand was there, but actually the marketplace relationships weren't there. So for me, it was that bit of people going, now we can actually converse with you. Now we want to do business with you and kind of go into that next level. So I think, having your knowledge of your strengths and understanding what you know really well, but also knowing what pushes your buttons, having that challenge, moments where you kind of think, actually, I need the leadership to ask me difficult questions because I'm not going to grow otherwise.
It's true.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing for me is career projection and where I was going. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but all I ever knew was that I wanted to be in business. I wanted to be doing marketing. Where and who for and what that looked like, no clue. Every day was different. Every day was something new. But there was a moment where I kind of felt like I'd actually outgrown that particular organization. And it was better for me to start thinking about where else can I go than staying and hitting my head against potential brick walls, because that became really kind of culturally diversive and not good. What one piece of beautiful advice would we offer our younger selves?
Mine would be something that I didn't do, but would be get a mentor early. I see the power of it in my position now. If you haven't got one and you're not early, still go get one, right? But get one as early as you can. Get one at the moment that you realise, and you can change them through your career. But someone that you can really talk to about marketing, someone that you can rant at, someone that you can check your sanity levels with. I think especially in the recruitment space, where quite often, as we've talked about, you're being managed by someone that isn't marketing savvy necessarily. I think it's so important, and especially actually as a woman. I'm sure it's relevant for the young guys out there starting a marketing career as well. But as a young woman in the world of business, I think having a mentor really helps navigate the power dynamics, navigate the conversations, just some of the frustrations. We all know they exist in this world, and someone that's been through some of that stuff. I just genuinely think it is.
Yeah, it's really invaluable as well from that other way as being, mentoring someone. It gives you that kind of, I think it gives me just a sense of heart that I know that what I did isn't wasted on just me. And, there's so much learning that actually can accelerate someone's career, and actually the understanding, you can get them from A to B really quickly, where, I sat for months and just, tried to navigate on my own for so many years in so many different situations.
I was talking to someone the other day and just saying sometimes you're right.
Yeah.
Your frustration is right, but here's how to handle it. Yeah. Like, I think that's so empowering to someone.
Just
I think the other piece to add to that is that moment that you can, from being a marketer or probably any profession, that moment from actually having to prove yourself to being able to say, okay, and you see it with, I have to do everything. You see these marketers who are maybe just kind of getting into they're at the manager level. They're just about to get to maybe a head of would be their next step. And they feel they have to do everything and they have to prove themselves across everything. Yeah. I love your face.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't.
So right.
But the moment you actually have empowered yourself and recognize that you are leading a function, and that's okay if you have other people who are delivering against it. It's okay if you have, external support or others on the team or pulling different resources, because you have enough confidence in yourself and maybe self-awareness, security in yourself to know you don't need to have every answer.
Yeah.
And you will be seen by your leadership group as being a much more strategic contributor by saying, I don't have that answer, but let me go get it for you.
Yeah.
Let me go pull my different levers to actually get the full story for you.
Yeah.
And as soon as they have that confidence, you actually can see it. You can see them have this kind of jump, like awakening. That's powerful.
Confidence is huge,
That's
isn't it? I think
powerful.
confidence is a whole other episode in its own right, but I think it is.
So
and
that
I
brings
think-
us to what's the point? What is the point?
What's the point?
I think the point for me is find your network early. Find your people. And it's not necessarily the people internally are obviously going to be very, very important to you. Your first early careers, companies, they will be your friends for life. You might already think that you've got friends. Trust me when I tell you that you've got friends in that organization that will be your friends for life, but your professional network, the cradle that literally will help you to springboard into your next point for me is, go find those people.
Yeah.
And don't stop finding them, collect them. That's what I would suggest. What about you, Christy?
The point for me is recognize that this is a journey, understand where you are today, have a vision of where you want to be in the future. Don't be so rigid in your vision that you can't go off piece and off plan, because you know what? The world is changing, that our industry's changing, technology's certainly changing. But taking those very deliberate, intentional steps to get to where you want to go.
Mine probably connects both. So for me, it's about building relationships. Build relationships internally at senior level, at the junior level, at desk level. Build those relationships. It's really important. And not only will it help you now, but it will certainly help you, as to what you alluded to, Claire, but in those next steps. And I think, to your point, Christy, having that wider audience and that wider knowledge of what do you do in your job and really understanding someone's day-to-day not only helps you in your job, but helps you see a bigger picture. What else is out there?
And so what's the point of knowing what we know now and making sure that you actually realize that you are everything that you need to be right now? The things that you need to remember are go out and get yourself a mentor as soon as possible. Work your network and keep working your network through your entire career. Everybody will support you and everybody is on your side. And then the final point really is trusting yourself and having the confidence to really work your role and your business and keep marketing. And that's all we need to tell you, because you're going to be doing great.